Hi, I'm Doni. I'm Trinidadian Costa Rican.
Hi, I'm Rhonda. I'm Afro-Honduran. And we
And
are
we're
your
your
co-hosts
co-hosts for
for
Negra
Negra
Como
Como
Soy,
Soy.
or I am Afro-Latina. Every Tuesday, we'll bring you the insights, perspectives, and history of the African diaspora in Latin America.
To educate, enlighten, and hopefully create a sense of belonging for you, our listeners and viewers.
Negra Como Soy is brought to you by Cultures, the global multicultural magazine. Cultures celebrates cross-cultural identity because everyone should feel like they matter.
¿Qué tal, Rhonda? ¿Qué tal?
Todo bien, qué pedos.
Ah, yo soy en Colombia, Medellín. Es muy bonita.
Ah, qué
I'm in
linda.
Medellín, Colombia. It's very pretty here. So, yeah, what are you up to? What's going on? It's been a rough morning for us. I'm trying to get my vibe
Yeah.
back.
The time change. Yeah, you said Colombia, and I thought there's this song my mom used to play all the time by Arrow. Colombia
Hmm.
rock, Colombia rock, Colombia rock. You know that song?
No, I don't. I don't.
I love that song. You
You,
should look it up while you're in
what
Colombia.
style of music? ¿Qué tipo? What style of music is it?
Uh, I feel like it's kind of like a soca vibe or something.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Mm,
So, like the
I,
coast, maybe. Well, because in Medellin, it's all about reggaeton. We talked about that with the J Balvin
mm-hmm.
episode.
Yes.
So big on reggaeton here. And but it's so funny. I went out with somebody the other day, and he's from the coast, and vallenato is big there. So that was interesting. There were a lot of types of music played in different clubs because he knew where to go. But yeah, for the most part, everybody is rocking the reggaeton. So
Wow. Yeah, that's
I'm all about it.
surprising.
Really? How so?
Because that's not like it's not local music to Colombia. And so what's their like
I think
their
it's vallenato.
musical style?
I think it's
There's
vallenato.
another one though. There's another one. Which is it?
Um,
Um
um, oh, now I can't think of it either. Uh,
um
I have to look it
it's
up.
not cumbia. What is it?
Not cumbia.
Bachata?
Now we
No.
have, no, that's DR, right? The Dominican Republic is all
Is it
about
DR?
bachata. Um, I can't, I can't remember now. Like it's right there on the edge of my brain, and I can't
Yes.
think of it. Um, Here we go. What's Colombia? Cumbia,
It is cumbia. That's
cumbia.
what I said first. I
Okay,
said it's not
okay.
cumbia,
I
but that
missed
was
it. I think I missed it when you said it. Colombian folk music. So, but right now,
yes.
reggaeton is what's
It's
big.
all about
So
reggaeton.
we talked about Is it Bad Bunny? Yeah, Bad Bunny sold out in an hour. So I am staying at the stadium, by the stadium, and I almost recorded some of the. Oh my god, it sounds English when you hear them playing soccer and the announcers and how they do the announcement. It's fantastic, and people lose their minds. They go crazy. So there was a game last night, and it was all Colombianos. So last night though, they were partying until 5 a.m. And that was a Thursday. It doesn't matter what day it is, they like party hard for those games. Let me tell you. So anyway, the stadium I think is the largest stadium in South America. 44,000 people.
Oh
Let me
wow.
look it up. Medellin Stadium. What's interesting is so we had the conversation about J Balvin, and the Maluma concert is on the 31st here. I'm actually leaving for Spain next week for the Maluma concert. Um, but he sold out. Actually, did he sold out? I just know that Bad Bunny, according to Hendy, last time we spoke, sold out in an hour, and those tickets were ridiculously expensive, even at U.S. prices.
Wow.
Okay, it says here it's 30K people. I thought it was 44K people um, for their stadium. So anyway, it's big though. It's big. It's huge.
That's still quite a lot. One of
So
my favorite memories growing up is being at the soccer stadium um, in New Orleans with my mom watching Vida. That's the Honduran team play. Um, yeah, but anyway, I was gonna try and segue that
Well, no, I
growing
actually
up.
I was
Oh, go
gonna
ahead.
segue because last night, so moreno means dark, right? Like so you're
Yes.
rubio, blonde, or moreno, like brunette. But it's also I'm finding people use it for
Skin tone.
skin. So
Mm-hmm.
at like 1 a.m. I went down because everybody's out partying and all the places, all the restaurants, everything's open. I went down to get some galletas, some cookies. Yes, at 1 a.m. people, I did do that. So I was talking to the guy, and there's a big screen, and this is at the restaurant, right? When I say restaurant, like there's restaurants in the street, and I don't know if this is different because of COVID, because I started coming to Colombia during COVID, right? So I don't know what it was like before that, but there's all these open air restaurants and the chairs are on the sidewalk and close to the street, that kind of thing. So anyway, I just literally walked outside of my suite, walked outside of the apartment building, and then the restaurant is right there. Everybody's on the street with the chairs, whatever. So it's weird to have such a. It was like this big screen TV, literally just on a pillar, right? Um, and so I was seeing there's all these morenos on the TV, and I asked the guy, "This is not what I meant." So I find it interesting that he went here. I said, "Which team is this?" And he's like, Colombia. I said, todos Colombianos. It's all Colombians. And he's like, yeah. And I said, but who's the other team? I was trying to show him this. They're wearing blue and white and they're wearing green. Who's who? And he's like, todos Colombianos. I was like, really? So I think what he thought I was surprised about is because they were all dark skinned, right? So then he went into this thing about like 80 to 90% of the players are morenos, and I was like, really? Okay, that's not what I was asking you, but thanks for the conversation. So that really fits into what we're that really fits into what we're talking about today, because it's like, what does that mean to if you're in the United States and what blackness is in the United States? So I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll let you say what you were going to say.
No, so my segue was, growing up going to the soccer field, which was situated inside City Park in New Orleans. When kids go to school, sometimes they're like, "What did you do this weekend?" And I would share what we did, and it was always like soccer,
Soccer,
or we said, and I would
football,
clarify, we call it
right?
football, and that's not black, right? Because black people don't go to soccer games, and I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure I'm black, and we go to soccer games, right? So there's this kind of limitation that's placed in the United States specifically. I don't know about in other European colonized places, like maybe that's true other places that are not Latin in culture. I don't know if in Australia, I don't know. I just know that in the United States, oh, that's weird. Soccer? Really? Black people? We don't watch that. We watch
So
basketball and football.
right,
Maybe
right.
baseball.
Well, so, based on my experience, so I know that we were gonna, and I think we should still have another topic of this, and we were gonna have some experts on and talking about, the history and
Yes.
where this came from. But based on my experience, growing up on, I say 5 continents, but let me clarify. I should always clarify because Central America is not a continent. Which, no, I gotta tell you, down here, people were considering Central America South America. I'd never heard that before. Actually, they thought Mexico was South America too. I was like, no, 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 Mexico is North America. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, there's a huge difference. Like Mexicans versus Central and South Americans, like Mexicans are North Americans. They feel like
Mm-hmm.
North Americans to me. So anyway, yeah, I had this discussion with someone the other day. He's like, no, Mexico, South America. I'm like, it is not. It is not. Anyway, so I include Central America as a continent, but so really I only grew up on 4 continents. But I say 5 because I feel like our people should be represented well. Anyway,
That's how I
with
grew up.
our
I
own
grew up
with
thinking
our own
Central
continent.
America was separate.
Yeah,
I grew up
I know.
thinking
It's
that,
an
like, I
isthmus.
always said it that way. Was it taught in
It's
school
I
that way
know,
at
right?
some point?
Well,
Because
in
I thought
Trinidad,
I
they teach
remembered
that.
that.
I don't know, but it's not a continent. I mean, in Trinidad,
Right.
it's an isthmus, which is the land that connects to. So anyway, and it's difficult for me to say isthmus. I think that's how you say it. It's an isthmus. Anyway, but now I forgot where I was going with that. Oh darn!
Mexico being part of it or not. We were talking
Oh
about the
no,
experts coming on.
about growing up on five continents. So growing up on those five continents, I've only ever seen blackness be defined in a specific way in the United
Mm,
States. And I
okay.
feel like, so you and I were talking about that, and the first time I got some insight, for instance, education is something that every other Black society that I have grown up with or experienced. You know, I grew up in Asia and Europe and South America, Central America, and North America. Um, every other place that I had gone to, education is huge, right? And in the United States, it's huge too. But I did find that people would, you and I talked about what would happen to you, try to make fun of you. Like, I love school. I love school. Like, to this day, like, there's not a year that goes by that I don't do something education wise, right? I'm always learning, always thriving with that. It just makes my heart sing. And when I was younger, when I first came to the States, um, people would be like, you know, like the nerd. They didn't say it like they said to you. You could tell us your experience, but they acted like you were the nerd that wanted to do well in school. I'm like, hey, this is fun to me. Like, what's wrong with you? Oh, why do you talk so proper? I mean, what do you mean talk proper? Like everybody I know talks like this. Why do you talk like that? That's how you talk. This is how I talk. Like, what's the big deal, right? And so when I was at the university, as you know, I have a class about this at the university, and we were talking about Native students, Native American students. And the person writing these articles focusing on Native students, and she was an expert in the area, she was saying that for the Native students, they felt like it was like buying into the man or giving into the system if you were partaking in the education. And I, so it made more sense at that point, but I found it interesting too because then it holds you back, right? Like education is such a door opener for so many people. It's a great equalizer. So, um, I'd
Hmm.
love to hear or talk a little bit more about how it was for you growing up and what that felt like in terms of being Black and what Black people thought or Black Americans thought about liking school or emphasizing education.
I think I came to that same conclusion that the Black people in America have that same idea in the back of their mind somewhere that you are conforming or you're giving in of yourself and your culture and your identity if you are learning, if you are enjoying activities that are historically white, right? And that could be from any culture, anything that is not what Black Americans identify as that African American aspect of culture. And so I was thinking the other day, knowing that we were going to eventually have this conversation, that maybe it comes out of a rooting in fear, of staying in your place, kind of. Maybe it came from the white side, like stay in your place. These are not things for you to do, and out of a need for safety and protecting, your children and your livelihood, you don't cross these lines that take you onto the wrong side of the tracks, take you onto the white side, right? And maybe some people linger in that. There are plenty of people, plenty of Black people in America that have moved on and don't allow those restrictions to define who they are. But there is a strong grouping of people that are louder through social networking, and even in movies. Maybe they're written that way, that want to hold on to, no, we don't do those things. We don't talk too proper. We don't read those books. We don't go to those places. We don't do these things. We stay in our little space, which is at the barbecue, wearing our Nikes or Reeboks and talking about who won the game. I, this is just experience, right? I know people are going to be pretty upset with me, and I'm not saying everybody. I'm just saying there's a strong cohort that are like, this is where we are, this is what defines us, and we stay here. We don't go do those other things because that's trying to be white or trying to act white.
See, so that's an interesting concept. Back to what you were saying about what blackness looks like and what it's considered to be in the United States. And yes, I still agree. Every place that I've been, I think we've talked about before, the only place in the world that I lived, I lived with brown people, white people, just all kinds of people. The only place I ever felt culture shock, and this is from age 2 weeks to 17. So 17 is when I went to college. And at that point, I think I'd lived in the US. I counted last night, only a total of 7 years at that point, I think, right? I was trying to get all the time together. And then I realized, wow. So, because I feel more like a United States person now. Like when I go to other places, it's clear. I've been in the US for a long time. It's a big part of who I am. However, I didn't grow up there really, and so counting those years really made sense for me. And I was like, oh wow! So by 17, I only had 7 years, and those included baby years, right? So some of those didn't really count because I wasn't learning the culture or whatever. So there's so many things that define what you're supposed to be like. Like, is this black? So for me, they would look at me, and of course, you and I spoke about your head wraps. I'd wear head wraps. I'd wear different clothes. Actually, that's a thing here that happened here in Colombia as well, where I was mentioning to someone that a lot of people think I'm local. And one of the Colombianos who happens, he's a Blanco. Somebody said to me, "Oh, you like the Blancos?" I was like, "What? I like, me gusta todos. I like everybody." Like, what do you mean I like the Blancos? No, I don't know where you got that impression, which that is universal, I gotta say. If you have a white friend or if you date someone who looks different than you, all of a sudden, that's all you do, right? I was like, no, that's like one person. I'm hanging out with them for 5 minutes. What? Anyway, I do. He said, "Oh, well, no, you don't. You look American." I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yeah, because you're tall and the way you dress." And I said, "Well, I don't dress American, right? Like, meaning." And I found it interesting that he said American because a lot of people in South and Central America are like, "Well, these are the Americas, so why do you guys get to appropriate the whole thing and just be Americans, and we have to be these other things, right?" But we got to talking, and his family's from Spain because he has very light eyes, he has very light skin, um, and so yeah, I find it all interesting and fascinating. But I do see that typically in the United States, there's a box that you have to be in. This is how it is, and this is the kind of music you listen to. This is the kind of food that you eat. These are the clothes that you wear. These are the things that you do. Um, and I know at the university, at one point, Colorado State is where I teach, and they have these different groups where like El Centro is for, I'm pleased to say now they really focus on the Latin diaspora and not just it used to be Chicanos and Mexicanos for a long time. Like when I was a student there, I went to undergrad there. Now they're really big on the diaspora, and they've been doing all these Afro-Latin things. I got to be one of their speakers the other day, so I was excited about that. But we also have an Asian Pacific Islander resource center is what I should call it, a Native American resource center, et cetera, et cetera. And each of those places has a month that they identify with, and they have a big event that they do. So the Native American Center has a powwow. The Asian Center has the the luau, right? And so the Black African American Center wanted to do something, and they were thinking of, I can't remember what they were going to call it, but basically Black Days, something like that, right? And I went to the planning meeting, and everyone was so excited, and they were doing basketball, and like you said, barbecue, and I was sitting there with my face all crunched up, like, and I raised my hand. I was like, well, I thought this was for, Blackness. And they're like, well, yeah. And what else was it? Dominoes and spades, right? And I said, well, but you're only doing African American things. Quiet. Everyone was like, blink, blink, like, what's wrong with you? Like, what are you talking about? And finally, after, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds, someone says, well, you mean like soccer? And I was like, yes, like soccer. And I said, or there's an Ethiopian restaurant down the street. We could have Ethiopian food. We could have Jamaican food. We could have Nigeria, and I started saying all these things, and everybody just kind of sat there looking at you like, what? And so in the back corner, there was this guy with a thick accent who just kept his mouth shut. He let me go into the fire because I was the one who said something. But he was in the back like this, like, yes, Blackness is not all basketball and barbecue, So it was just
Mm-hmm.
really funny because it opened their minds. You could tell that's why they're quiet, but then they didn't know where to go from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've told people before, somebody said to me, I was like, they were talking about spades, and I was like, yeah, these words all sound foreign. You might as well be speaking, dog, because I don't know what these words are, right? I don't understand. And he's like, I'll teach you. And I said, what if I don't want to learn? And again, they all looked at me, and I was like, it's not that I don't want to learn. What I was trying to say is, I feel like you're imposing on me what the general population imposes on people of color, right? So you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, I'm excited to teach you how we are. You should be like us. And I'm saying, how about we're all like ourselves and we do what we enjoy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean that I didn't want to learn spades, but I don't want to have to learn spades and only do
Mm-hmm.
what you do in order to be myself, in order to consider myself black.
Yeah, and don't want to have my black card threatened to be taken away if I don't do
Revoked.
certain things. You know, yeah. Oh, your black card is taken. Why? I can list hundreds of people that don't do what you do. Are they all not black anymore either? So yeah,
Thousand
that's
percent.
that's a great example. And at a university setting, but it constantly causes people to rethink. And then what it seems like happens is they want to create more division and make more lines. Well, you know, those are not black. You know, we're talking about black people as though that is synonymous with being black in America. And anyone that doesn't fit those defining characteristics in the United States are not black. Oh, well, Rhonda, you're not black. That's why you don't know what we're talking about. That's why, you're in disagreement with what we are defining here because y'all are not black. Y'all, where y'all from again? Honduras, yeah. You're not black.
Well, and it's so funny. And I'm like, I'm clear. I'm like, no, I'm not African American. 1,000%, though I'm black. So,
Mm-hmm.
I won't say it now because I think it's kind of offensive. But I'd be like, shoot, I'm blacker than you. You're American black. But the other day I was at a grocery I was at a grocery store in Colombia. And for the first time, because people often think I'm local, like I said, but for the first time, this gentleman, and he looked like he either was black or has, some African roots or whatever the case may be. And he walked by, and I said, "Hola," and he was like, "Hello," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I thought he was American because of his accent, right? But then later, when I was checking out, he happened to be behind me in line. So I'm talking with the lady at the cash register. She asked me, did I want to donate some money for kids? Of course, this is all in Spanish. And I said, yes. And he's over next in line, and he starts cracking up. And for some reason, I know he's cracking up about me. So I said, it's something funny. Because he was cracking up. I said, it's something funny. And he said, yes, it's hilarious. And I was like, what's so funny? And he's like, do you know what she said to you? And then I just looked at him and he's like, she asked you if you wanted to donate money for kids. And he's steady laughing. Like I did something really hilarious. I said, I know exactly what she said. I said, I donate every other time that I come to the store. And I'm thinking, you should donate too. Maybe you'll be a nicer person. Why are you laughing? I knew what she was saying, but he thought it was funny because he thought I didn't know. And so I was like, yes, just like, yes, right? Like, there's this one
Mm-hmm.
guy, he always laughs because I was like, thank you. I kept saying, gracias, gracias. So he thought it was funny too, but that was my way of saying, I got it. You can leave now. Gracias, gracias. But he thought thought that was the only word I knew, so I just kept saying thank you over and over.
Oh.
So when he sees me, he's like, gracias, gracias. Or he'll say
Oh
it in
my
English. He'll
God.
say, thank you, thank you. Anyway, but on the other side, so this gentleman said, "Oh, trying to break the ice now," because now he realizes I knew what I was doing. He was laughing for no reason, and he says, "Oh, so where are you from?" in Spanish, and I said, "Oh, I said Costa Rica, right?" Because as a TCK, depending on the situation, I pick and choose what I'm going to answer to people based on what I think they'll understand, and based on the transaction we had so far, that was all I said, Costa Rica. And he said, "Oh, I thought you were African American," and I said, "I am not." And the reason and now he didn't know what to do. He's like, "Oh, well, I thought you were African. You looked African American," and I just looked at him like, mm-hmm. So, but I say that because I'm very clear with people. African American to me is a culture. It's not a race. It's a
Mm-hmm.
culture. It's a specific way of being, and I'm clear that I'm Afro Latin, Afro Latin Caribbean to be specific, right? And it's not about I'm trying to denounce it. I'm definitely a United States citizen. Like I said, I'm more American now than not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I want to be clear. Like, I'm not clear. I know how the African American culture works, but as you and I grew up, how the things we do, how we do it, the food we eat, the way we dress, all those things, I'm told constantly how different I am.
Exactly. All the time. Well, you don't count.
I know. You only count
Okay.
when we feel like counting you. But they'll use
Exactly.
you when they need
When
to.
it's convenient. When it's convenient. It's convenient right now to include you, so you're included. Oh, you're going against my argument, so now you're excluded, so that my numbers stay matching what I need to support my argument.
Yes,
Yes.
1,000%. Well,
Yeah.
there's so much more we have to say about that, and I look forward to
There
us
is.
having that session where we do have the experts on and kind of talk about what that looks like. I think a lot of that is left over from slavery, and
I think so
it'll be
too.
interesting to dig a little more deeply into this. So, as always,
I agree.
fabulous chat, and
Great
we'll see you
chat.
next
Hopefully, we
time.
get some good feedback.
I know,
Ciao.
right? We don't get canceled. We
Yes.
lose our black cards. Adios.
Ciao.